Season 4, Episode 11 of Motion Podcast. Yes, I'm Zach here with...
It's March, and everything's going to hell already. No, I'm kidding. My name's Lincoln. It's the first anniversary of COVID season. It's so bad.
For a second, I was thinking, wait a second, it's not our first anniversary. We've been doing this for 4 years. What the fuck?
Yes, we've been doing the podcast for 4 years or so already. Goddamn. It's been a long time since I podcast. But yeah, my name's Lincoln, aka I'm in your dreams. No, I'm kidding.
He's in your dreams, ladies, and he's never leaving.
That's like the stalkerish thing ever. Oh, random news. I didn't even know why he brought this up, thought about this now, but you hear that they're trying to cancel Pepe Le Pew and Speedy Gonzalez. It's like, oh, Pepe Le Pew is a little rapey. I'm like, well, seeing how he's never actually forced sex anybody, I don't think that's rapey. He just kisses on people because it was back in the days of, I don't know when did Looney Tunes come out? Like in the 60s? Like even actually no, earlier than that, I think. When did the Looney Tunes show come out? I know it's like really old.
I mean, Looney Tunes, I think there was Looney Tunes in the 40s. There was Looney Tunes before World War II.
Yes.
So
and it's not like he ever got things like he ever went for, like it's a stereotype. Like it was a bad stereotype. I'm not saying it's not a bad but like they're like, oh yeah, cancel it, like take out the archives. I'm like, it's still there. People still remember Pepe Le Pew existed. Also, anybody who ever thought Pepe Le Pew's my idol, that's a crazy person. Because even when I was a kid, I was like, something's wrong with that guy.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, like to me, it's like, okay, so you want to cancel Pepe Le Pew because of the way he was, but I'm like, shouldn't French people just be mad because he's a stereotype of French people?
French people? Yeah, like I think they should be the one to like, this is wrong.
Yeah.
And it's not like he, like, because it's not like the females on the which I have to commend Looney Tunes was because no one ever went for his like thing
exactly.
Because they beat the shit out of him. Like did not get away with that.
It's like, okay, we're canceling him because of how he is, but we're missing the context that in all of those episodes, none of those women were attracted to him being that way. So it wasn't like it's promoting this to kids. Like kids, like you just said, it wasn't like he was like your hero watching Looney Tunes. You're not like, I want to be Pepe Le Pew. So I mean, like, it's like it's silly. Like there's certain things where it's like, okay, when you go back and like look at some things, you're like, okay, that's racist, blah blah blah. That's why I say the French people. I'm like, they should be mad because it's a French stereotype, but like doing it because he's like some misogynistic guy, it's like no. They are missing the point of like his whole gimmick, like why he exists.
Oh yeah, exactly. And it's not even like he was misogynist. Like the whole thing, like people are forgetting the context of why the girls didn't like him in the first place.
Yeah,
it's because he's a fucking skunk. Like. He smells bad. Like, that was in every context where he would hug them. They would smell him and go, no, and try to run away. Like, the whole stereotype is that they were making fun of French people and saying they smell bad. It wasn't they're about love and whatever.
I think it was both. They were trying to say...
no, it was, but, like, they were going on both of them. But it's still, like, the fact that, like, why the girls were repulsed by him is mostly because he smelled like a skunk and somehow never realized it.
He's like, le wee wee, baby wee,
like all that was the whole. And then they were like, apparently people were like, oh well, I think we were going to cancel Speedy Gonzalez because he's racist. And I'm like, he's been racist from day one. Like, how are people just realizing this? Like, people are watching this and thinking, isn't it weird that the Mexicans are all the other rodents and constantly are trying to cross a border? Like, isn't that weird that that's every fucking episode of Speedy Gonzalez? Like, how people did not realize this? Like, as grown folks, because the grown folks are the ones that are complaining about this. It's not like kids are going around, I think Speedy Gonzalez is racist. Because just like when I was a kid, went right over my fucking head.
Well, and I mean, it was like this video that I saw on Facebook a little earlier, and it was this British guy, and he's like a newscaster, and I don't know if this is real. I think it was a fake thing, but he was just ranting, and he was talking about Laura Ingalls Wilder, who wrote Little House on the Prairie, and he's like, well, they want to take her name off of a trophy because her books depict racism and blah 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 blah. And he's like, of course they do. She lived in the 1800s. Like she existed in a time where slavery was abolished 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, of course people are saying the N word and treating black people like shit. That's her life.
Very Finn, bro.
She's writing about her life. So like it's silly because like I feel like that's the part about cancel culture that I just don't understand is the lack of context. Everything, there's no context for anything. It's like, oh no, if it's bad, and get rid of it. It's like, no, don't get rid of it. It's a historical thing. Like,
it's a historical thing, and like, and people are like, oh well, because the whole thing with, especially with Pepe Le Pew, was that they're saying it spreads rape culture. I'm like, okay, you know what actually spreads rape culture? I don't know. The parents who teach you these things.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, as a person who grew up from a child. Most of the lessons I've learned, to be real honest, especially when I was a kid, came from my parent. Like, that's it. Like, right. I could watch TVs a million times and watch cartoons and be like, oh, Bugs Bunny is funny and this and that. But never have I try to throw an anvil because my mom told me not to fucking do it. Like, it's a thing that people think like, oh, well, rape culture comes from this. I'm like, no. Most people who are rapists now had parents or had sometimes a father, we would just tell them, get what you want, take what you need, and blah blah blah, and don't care about people's feelings.
Yeah, it's like back in the day when they tried to blame the Columbine massacre on Doom. Like, oh, they love to play this violent game, and it's like, you think that game was
you didn't know that was a thing?
Oh, you didn't know that?
Until now. No.
Oh, okay. Lincoln, Lincoln was today years old when he found out about this. But back in '99 when Columbine happened, it was both the video games and the music. They were trying to blame Marilyn Manson and Doom and like, oh, all this media is what got them to be so violent. It's like, no, the fact that they were bullied, the fact that their parents like, you know, had to take them to therapy and they were on meds and they didn't take their, like, there's so many factors that were like part of their reality. The stuff that they played and the stuff that they listened to, yeah, that's a part of their personality. But none of that stuff is encouraging them to do this violent act. Like, there's a reason they did this, and it wasn't because Marilyn Manson was like, we're all stars now in the, you know what I mean?
It's stupid because I always think like, okay, people always like, oh well, this breeds violence, and you're like, no. Violence inside yourself breeds like you. If you're a violent person, I could play Doom religiously forever, and I'm never going to be like, I should get a gun, shoot up everybody on my street, and just go crazy because I'm like, this isn't a video game. Because for me, video games are just a way of like, you can experience life that you could never fucking experience in actual reality, and technically, you don't fucking want to. Like, we've talked about anime a million times on this show, and there is not one anime world that I would actually want to experience. Like, even as crazy as One Piece is, like, I don't think I want to be fucking hurt to a pulp just to get a fucking spike of energy every fucking time. There's not even one fucking episode of Dragon Ball Z where it's not like, yeah, you got defeated a lot. You have broken bones. I don't want to go through that as a daily fucking function. Like,
yeah, I mean,
but it's fun to watch and experience through the eyes of another person.
Yeah, I mean it's
not real.
Yeah, I mean it's like it's not a media issue. It's a mental health issue, and that's where
no one ever wants it. Like, and that's the problem. Is a lot of people don't want to blame themselves, so they want to blame other things. Like, people will be like, "Oh, my kid's violent because they played fucking Pokemon or some bullshit." Like, oh yeah, it was Harry Potter's like witchcraft, and I'm like, until Harry Potter gives me a fucking list of fucking items to get so I can do the voodoo that they do, like, it's not gonna teach me witchcraft. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's like, for example, like, if cancel culture in a general sense was like, we're gonna get rid of every racist thing that's ever happened in media, if you did that, if you literally found a way to do that, racism would still exist.
Yes, because racism, the underlying cause of racism is legit insecurity, fear, and making yourself feel better.
Not a cartoon.
Because not a cartoon. It was just like how like Martin Luther King said, like, the reason why they always push in that racism is because no matter what, it's a way of control. Because if you're a white, like, because this is what it was on that dissing white people. This is what it was, black versus white. If you were in a white person in a situation where you pretty much was like, hey, I have to deal with the fact that like I'm poor or working poor, but at least I'm not a black person. Like that was why the racism was there, is because you could feel good about yourself as long as you're better than this person, which no one's better than anyone. Like
Right,
and it's
right.
not something that is like it's same thing as Morgan Freeman. We're never going to get rid of racism until race is not a thing anymore. Until we're just like, yeah, there's no real difference. Just cultural shit that you have to deal with, and it doesn't really base off your race. It's where the fuck you're from. Because I don't care. You could be the blackest man ever. You could be Nubian black, but if you fucking born in like the Netherlands or like fucking London or some shit, you're not going to relate normally to a black man from Harlem. It's where would you get the cultural references? Like what? Like it's not like, well, because I'm a black man, I got the ghetto in me. It's not
Yeah, right. Yeah, because I mean, there's the stereotypes between races, and then there's the stereotypes amongst races, which is another. I feel like that's something that doesn't even really get addressed as much as like.
Oh no,
like
not at all.
White people stereotype themselves where it's like white trash. Like that's like a rich white person calling a poor white person something, and then black people do the same thing where it's like, oh, you're ghetto and I'm classy,
or you're ghetto and
like
all
Fresh
that.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, perfect dynamic, like Carlton and Will.
He's like, oh no, Carlton, he can't understand what it is to be a black man because he never came from the thing. I'm like, yeah, no, but no matter what, he could be rich as hell. But when people see him out on the street, they see a black person.
Exactly.
Like, they don't see like they don't be like,
exactly.
He's rich. He has now ascended to another level of humanity. Doesn't matter how much they want to think that. But it was just a weird thing with the cancel culture and people being crazy about that stuff. And it keeps coming back to like the cartoons. Like even people like with Lola Bunny, where they're like, oh, her design is different. Like they're trying to like take away from her physique or whatever. I'm like, Lola Bunny also didn't look that different in Space Jam. I don't know what fetish mind you're going with. Yeah, she was more curvy and she had some bust to her, but also like it's just in Space Jam, though, the one with LeBron James, like the new one coming out, it's just her wearing a sports bra and wearing an outfit like everybody else in the sport. Like no one wear like it's not like if you're going to see like in basketball, unless you get a very highfalutin person, every single person on there is going to wear a shirt and shorts, and they will probably all be the same size for their fucking body type. No one's gonna be like, I'm gonna wear a halter top. Like even like in the female basketball, like they wear regular fucking outfits. I think the only one that's ever actually wear things that are not regulated by a sport is lingerie football, because it's not a regulated fucking sport.
But but it should be. Hashtag cancel Zach. Hashtag I'm sexist. No, I'm just kidding. I don't watch lingerie football. I don't even know. It probably does still.
Actually, they hit a lot. I was like,
I mean, I've seen like bits and pieces of games in the past, but I'm like, I don't even think it still runs. But either way, like to me, like I mean, the intent for cancel culture is always, it always comes from a good place. Like, oh well, we don't want this negativity. We don't
want examples on this or toxicity.
Yeah, but
to teach these things. And it's like, it's not teaching them anything.
Yeah.
You also have parents that should say things.
Yeah. and at the same time, like, okay, if you want to do that for stuff that's coming out nowadays, if you feel like, okay, I don't want to sexualize Lola Bunny, fine. That's fine with me. It's not going to impact my enjoyment of Space Jam if they do that.
It's a cartoon.
Yeah. But the thing that bothers me is always going back and trying to like
past.
Yeah, and re-legislate.
Write that out. Like, oh no, we're going to write that out. I'm like, no, it's based off the context of where it's coming
exactly.
from.
Like,
stop it. You can just tell your kids, don't think it's. People are so surprised that they could just talk to their kids and their kids will just listen. I'm like, your kid from probably all the way to age 10 or 11 is just a fucking sponge. Like, that's all they are. Like, not even like saying they're stupid or anything. It's just they're not. They're intelligent. It's just all they want is absorb things. That's it. That's all. That's all a kid wants is like. That's why kids listen to stories, because it's just like, oh really?
Like like that's why, like, last year, or even in the years previous, when they're taking down Confederate generals' statues and things like that, that I'm okay with, because if you want to do that and you feel like this is not representative of who we are as a
Because
country.
that's like represent. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
representation of just like, hey, we still have these fucking statues here,
Yeah.
which are statues by nature. It's not even like if they have them in a museum or something, that's cool because you're admiring art, you're remembering the time frame. But if you have a statue like in a fucking public area, that is for inspiration. That's why
Yeah.
you have a flag.
Yeah.
Your goddamn thing. That
Yeah,
flag is meant there to be like representation.
Yeah, like if you take down the statue, fine. But if you try to say, "Oh, well, we can't teach the history because the history was filled with bad people," and it's like, how do you think people learn not to be those types of people? Like that's
It's history.
if because I've thought about this where we're actually talking about the theme to Rurouni Kenshin before the show, right? The creator of Rurouni Kenshin, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know if you heard this news, this might be another today years old for but the creator of the manga and the entire series was arrested 3 years ago for child pornography possession.
I did not know about
this.
Okay,
today years old.
Expected,
Yeah.
Sadly enough.
It was like, I guess he bought like a DVD in a shady ass shop, and then the cops were like, bang, 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 and he's like, yeah, I bought it. So, but the rules in Japan, that's a whole nother discussion. The context of cultures and how cultures treat things, and Japan.
They make lowly. They actually produce this thing. So I don't know how you got arrested for it.
Yeah, they treat that very lax. So he got off with like a small fine, and Shonen Jump was like, yeah, we're gonna stop running the Rurouni Kenshin reboot, and then like a year later they allowed him to continue. So I mean, they really didn't put the hammer on him, and a lot of American anime manga fans are like, how could they do that? And it's like, well, that's their country, their rules. I can't tell them how to live their lives, whether I agree or not.
Yep.
But I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, so if I was doing a historical thing about manga artists, I would have to talk about them. But somebody who's like cancel culture, social justice, blah blah blah, would be like, oh no, you couldn't write about him or you couldn't talk about him because he's a pedophile. And it's like, yeah, but you have to tell the history of that. You have to let people know. You can't hide from that. You have to let people know that maybe their favorite manga author is, like, they have to know that.
Exactly. And especially because people are like, oh, well, you're idolizing or you're celebrating. That's the word they love to use. You're celebrating a person who's done wrong. Yet, in the same breath, especially a lot of these Americans keep forgetting, we have a fucking holiday called Christopher Columbus Day
Right.
that represents a person who didn't fucking find America and gave people smallpox as a reward.
and he called them Indians because he thought he was in the Indies, but he wasn't. So that was a mistake.
Like, they literally like, oh, he discovered America. He never made it. He was on an island. Close. like if this was horseshoes, yeah, I guess that counts. Like hand grenades, like it's ridiculous. But yeah, no, like you can't stop from giving history. Like you have to tell these things because it's the same thing. Like a lot of people didn't fucking know about Juneteenth. Like I was one of those fucking people.
I didn't know.
Never fucking told me about that shit.
I'm a white guy, so I had no clue until I saw Atlanta.
It's not even like because it's not even like culture thing. Like they just did not teach us that in history.
Yeah.
Ever. Until like I literally learned that in college when people were like, no, you're gonna learn real American history. Whatever the fuck you learned when you were a kid was not American history. It was just like, yeah, we went to World War II. We fucked those people up. It's like, oh, did you know what we're doing aside from the World War II? Yeah, we caused it because of the Treaty of Versailles, and also selling on both parts. Ooh, like we were sticking the system. Which I can't really play that. But yeah, no, it's like cancel culture kind of needs to be canceled, and I just find it hilarious how crazy these people go off on like thoughts. I mean, they're just like, I have an opinion. It's fact now. That's not how opinions work.
Yeah. History is history, good or bad. Leave it the way it is. Learn from it, even the bad stuff. But that's why I joke around a lot and I say, like hashtag cancel Zach, hashtag cancel Lincoln, because us expressing our opinion, if we somehow are like extremely offensive, then so be it. But usually we're not, because we were raised to be like complete asshole, bigot, racist people. Like we don't, you know what I'm saying. But just when
Yeah, no. Like
you
we
know,
were raised to empathize with people and
yeah,
care for like and to learn, because there's a lot. I can tell you this wholeheartedly. There's a lot of times that in my past, like certain things that you would have to learn to accept later on. Like I will put it out there as a person. Like I know when I was younger, the whole homosexuality, transsexual thing was not a thing that was widely accepted or even talked about. Like it was no talk, no. So it was something like you had to like, as we're now getting meshed with this information. Now we're like, okay, you have to accept people as they are. Some people believe that they were not the gender that they were supposed to. Same thing as there are people who are homosexuals. You cannot pray it away. I don't. Why the fuck was that ever a thing? Like,
well,
but like you learn to accept things. But then you have people like going back in your Twitter feeds and shit like, oh, but you said this. I'm like, yeah, that was a different person. You're a different person. It's called learning and adapting. People make mistakes. Like the fuck is wrong?
and there's a fine line. There's a fine line to it all, right? So like, both me and Lincoln accepting individuals, like if you're trans, gay, bi, we respect it. We don't we does not bother us at all. But making Mr. Potato Head genderless, that's silly.
Oh
that
God.
To me, that's
that was
silly.
Another
That's
thing.
the
Yeah,
line.
there was a lot of shit that came out in this like months on it. They're like, oh yeah, we should take Mr. Potato Head and make him genderless because it's a potato. I'm like, or you could just make a Mr. Potato Head marry another Mr. Potato Head.
There you go.
Or just
That's a better idea.
Like, it doesn't fucking matter if it's like, oh well, it should be gender. Which is again another thing. What the fuck would you even contact that on? Like if somebody is like, say somebody's a trans whatever, or they still normally pick one gender or something like they or what pronouns. They still go as Mister. Like what concept was that? Like what else? We have Mrs. and Mister. Like unless you make another thing up,
Yeah.
we're going by one or the other.
like I mean, I guess you could have Potato Head, but like that's what I'm saying.
Surname. It's a signature to that.
Yeah,
like
we're going back. Like it's like we're going back in time to re-legislate something for the present to make it seem like, oh well, now we're
like
accepting.
that never happened. That never happened.
Mr. and Mrs.
That's the problem. Which is certain, like things happen. We can adapt to it. We can learn from it and like build ourselves to be better people. Just like there are people out there, like people going after these old people and going like, oh well, they're racist or whatever. They're racist because of the time they were in and not dealing with it and not literally having different examples of better things to go off of. Don't go at them at that. At the same time, you should not allow them to stay the same way they are now. You can edge them into it. You could be like, okay, I understand it. You're kind of a bigot. Like, I get it. But you got to learn to adapt things before you get old and die in this like perpetual like hell that you're in.
Exactly.
Like it's just something we shouldn't just constantly keep going after people and like, cancel them, because if everyone was canceled for their mistakes, no one would be here. Like that's how you learn shit.
That's another thing too. Is people. Oh, this guy said something in an interview in 1985. Let's bring this up and just cancel. It's like, okay, why don't you go back to 1985 and live in the context of 1985, and then say to yourself, would you probably say something just as silly because you were alive in that time and Twitter didn't exist? Facebook didn't exist, and you didn't have your prejudices. You didn't have
anything to like go based off this. It's the same reason. Like back in the day, people, of course, like there's a phrase that's jungle fever, which is a very racist phrase to ever say like a black person liking a white person is a fever or a disease of some sort. But even back then, if you ever see movies where there is a black person liking a white person, even you're like, this is wrong. which they should never think that, but that's in the context of that like time frame, they would think something's wrong with them. Same thing with the people like who are gay or homosexual. Back then, they had to try to fight that so hard that they thought they were straight or whatever because of like it's wrong to think otherwise. And that's just them. That's you being sexist to yourself, but because of the context that you're in.
Yeah. And like and think of it this way too, like two things. Number one, people change, right? So you could be that guy. Like I could look up Lincoln Edwards interview 1985. Lincoln was not born yet. Neither was I. But if he was there, it's like 1985, Lincoln said, "Oh man, yeah, a bunch of crackers, blah blah blah." I don't know what the hell it would be because crackers isn't even close to the N-word, but it's
the only word.
It's the only word. But you know what I'm saying. So like,
I know, I got you.
So 1985, that's you, and say you're like 18, but now you're famous all these years later, and it's like, by this time you're in your 40s. You're not the same man. You might not have the same beliefs because all humans evolve, you know, somehow. Some evolve more than others. Some stay the same, stubborn.
Especially because you're being pushed into certain... Like, because if I got famous at 40, okay, go back to 18-year-old kid Lincoln and think about, like, oh, even now, like, even just using me as a preference, I was in... Well, actually, I couldn't even say that because I'm in Florida, which is a melting pot of, like, cultures. But, like, going even back to that, like, my focal group would be just my friends, my family, and legit whatever the fuck I'm watching on TV, and that is it.
Yeah.
And even back then, TV was not like, oh, we're gonna show people kissing that are of the same sex, or oh, we're gonna show a lot of like intermingling between races and shit. Like, not a lot of that was in there. It was just ha ha ha, laugh at the times. So like, I wouldn't have that preference. Now, put me into a further time of me going to college, meeting people, having roommates, because that was a big thing, because it was so weird to actually even live with somebody else. Like, we were like, oh, we're accepting of people, but it's so different where you're like, here's this random person, live with them, deal with their issues in the same fucking room. You learn about yourself real quick. Oh, yeah. How other people suck ass. Like, real quick.
but even so, like I was saying, like that, you know, people are gonna change. That was the first thing. But the second thing, though, is the act of going back and doing that puts this message. It puts a message out there for young people in this generation where it's like, oh, I'm just gonna go back and I'm gonna delete all of my tweets and my Facebook and my MySpace and blah blah blah. It's not solving the problem. It's hiding the problem. So you're gonna have people out there who are still racist, who are still sexist, who are still homophobic, and you're just not gonna know that because
they're gonna hide everything.
Yeah, you created this environment where everybody's gonna hide who they truly are instead of finding a way to fix it. You know, which is that's my problem with it. Is like I said, it comes from a good place. People cancel because they think they're doing something good, but in reality, you're really doing more harm
than good. It's the same thing as people doing the vegetarian things where they're like, okay, being a vegetarian, and I understand that the way we process meat back or even now was very harmful. I don't know why people would want that bruised meat anyway. But like being a vegetarian, eating from the land, cool. Now, bad part is trying to do the same shit to your cats or your dogs, which, hint, hint, are still carnivores. So they can't just live off meat. Even dog food still has to have actual meat products in it, or else a dog will die. You can't just be like, here's an apple every day. Why are you getting skinnier? Because the dog is based off a wild dog, which eats meat.
Exactly. I mean, we're talking about domesticated wolves here, pretty much.
Pretty much. They're still domesticated. They still got fucking teeth and canines. Like, if there were real herbivores, we would not feel shit from them biting us. We're like, you're fun, dude. Like, that's
and I should know. I got bit by one of Lincoln's dogs before.
That was barely a gnaw. He just opened his mouth and went back down. That's all that happened. But still, you can see by the sharpness, and I'm like, that's a carnivore. These are animals that are carnivores, they need to eat meats because their teeth don't work for herbivore shit. Also, their stomach is like, I can't process this, motherfucker. They're not getting the full shit of the greens. There's a reason why cows have 4 fucking stomachs. Like, think about this.
See, animals evolve, people evolve. It's just a part of life, and we don't cancel animals, do we? I mean, no.
Oh,
well. I mean, there's no reason to, but you know what I'm saying.
We have already done enough with extinction, and it's so bad that we have so many extinct animals.
Actually, it's coming full circle, this entire conversation, because they're trying to cancel Pepe Le Pew, and he is an animal. So there you go.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
But like on a side note, we watched. We were just filling in a lot of spot because we watched WandaVision, the last episode, and we wanted to just do a whole overview of like what the season was, what we liked, what we disliked, if we disliked anything.
I liked everything.
And like because the weird thing with like WandaVision is we had the first 2 episodes, and people who came into this now understand what a fucking sitcom was. They were idiots because me Zach and I were like, okay, this is interesting, and it's not like they didn't leave little breadcrumbs saying things are not what it seems. You should probably still be engaged. Yes, it's in black and white, and it seems like Wanda and Vision are having a good time. But you should also wonder how the fuck is Vision fucking alive? Like, there was a big, like, I don't know why people were like, this is probably going to be a stupid show because of these first 2 episodes. I'm like, how do you not realize there's a lot of mystery, but how did Wanda even get there? Why is Vision alive? Where the fuck are they at? What city is this? Why is everything in black and white? That's not how color works.
Exactly. The one complaint that I was getting from people was, it's kind of boring. And I'm like, you understand that they're trying to recreate like a 50s sitcom, a 60s like, of course the pacing's going to be like that. It might not seem as action packed as you think, but like, we saw the trailers. We knew this wasn't just going to be like, you know what I mean? Like, you knew what was coming, sort of. So I was just shocked that people didn't have the patience or like the foresight to know that this was going somewhere. And then it's like, oh, episode 4. Oh, now it's amazing. It's like, duh, because they were leading you to this point, and you just had to stick around.
To lead in that, like, and it was so stupid that people were like, oh, well, they're going on the sitcom thing, and I'm like, it's not even like. To be honest, like, it's not even the sitcom parts were even boring to me at all. Like, there was a lot of parts that were very funny.
Yeah.
And I knew something was, again, underlining this, I knew something was off because how people reacted. How the guy was even like, what was it, the 3rd episode or something? Or how Vision was like, what the fuck do we do here? Like,
yeah. He's like,
these are valuable questions. And there was the commercials that came in randomly, which got us on a whole nother fucking thing that was not actually even part of the story. We're like, are they part of, is this Hydra? Is this AIM? It wasn't AIM. I was like, fuck. Thought this was the time they're going to bring in AIM.
I mean, to be like, hey, look, that, I mean, I'll give you credit. That's not a bad guess because I feel like that is going to be a part of this phase. Like, MODOK is going to be a part of this phase. And that cartoon that they're coming out with, it might just be a cartoon. But I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't put it past them
if it's tied in.
Connects.
Yes, like
get the fucking Hulu.
Because it's so goofy. It's so goofy to do a cartoon about MODOK. Like, what the fuck? And it's like, oh no, this will be like his introduction into this whole thing.
Where it becomes a bad guy, like a full-on bad guy, like he's trying to take this serious, and it's like MODOK will return. I'm like, oh my god. I wouldn't put it past them because they don't waste time with certain things. Like, even Ultimate Spider-Man, which I didn't even know until like when it came out and was already all and done. They were like, this is the greatest Spider-Man ever. I'm like, I thought that was only me. I thought it would just be Spider-Man bias. I was like, fucking love Spider-Man. Like, but apparently it was amazing. And yeah, like, people were watching watching WandaVision thinking like it was going to be boring or it will stay on the same track. That was stupid. They had no foresight. I'm sorry. I'm just going to bring it out here. If you're offended, learn how Marvel fucking works, you dumbass. Like, this was literally like phase 4. This is the introduction to like the TV series to follow, and you thought it was gonna literally just keep on the sitcom route and just be boring the whole route. Like this is literally the precursor to everything of Phase 4. Like this is what's well, actually no, not the precursor. Technically, the precursor was Far From Home.
Oh,
but
yeah,
like
yeah,
the TV, like if this does wrong, then Loki can't exist. If that was like, and then also Winter Soldier can't be a thing. Like this is legit. Like movies went to shit because like fucking that's got what was the goddamn Black Widow pushed to God knows when, like because of how shit went wrong with COVID.
And just to pull this one thing out because it popped in my head. There's a question to be answered here. Well, okay, maybe not because Quicksilver is dead, so you can't really bring him back. But the fact that they brought they
recast him.
They recast him as the other Quicksilver, and I just think that's hilarious to tie those two things together. But it makes me wonder, okay, is this Phase 4 going to be melting the X-Men universe finally into the MCU?
Because they have it. They fucking have it, and they probably will bring Fantastic Four, which I'm kind of very wary about that because technically the first Fantastic Four was good when we watched it.
Yeah, yes.
When we grow up, I've seen so many things just ripped that to shreds, and I'm like, oh, I liked it back when I was a kid. I shouldn't have liked it.
I still like the original Fantastic Four. The Silver Surfer one is because the Galactus thing, they just rushed and made him a cloud. And Silver Surfer's character in general, very interesting, but he has no personality because he's just I serve the Lord.
The first time out.
Yes, but he never gains a personality.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Which I'm happy they did that within WandaVision was like Vision. This was the only chance we got to be like, okay, because normally, okay, we watched the movie and yes, he was good with Scarlet Witch and he was like a caretaker, but even like in Endgame and all that other stuff, he seemed too good of a person. I'm not saying he doesn't seem good of a person in WandaVision, but he has more character, and I can believe that Wanda and Vision are actually in love watching WandaVision. And it doesn't matter if this is just the spoilers to hit the Mind Stone creation, if this was just whenever they rebuilt Vision. Like I always believe that characteristic about him is always what makes him worthy of the fucking stuff. Like the fact that he just knew, like, Wanda literally lost his brother, like her brother, her twin, like not even her twin. Like it's a whole nother significance to that through the line of work, and they're just became a good person because people keep forgetting that it wasn't like this was years after. No, it was literally like we're gonna be on the good side. Bam, 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 dead. Like Pietro's dead. So like. She had to deal with the whole moral dilemma that she was now becoming a good person and the death. Like, it was crazy. And for Vision to literally just go like, I want to say the right exact words and just be here for you. And then that's what actually made like Wanda like, I love this person. I'm like, poetry. Like I can accept. Like, I'm not saying I never accepted their love before because they were just always around each other. So, of course, it just made sense. But this like solidified like, okay, I can see why once Vision was dead, Wanda lost everything. Like, because this was because Pietro died, and what did Tony Stark think of? Put her in a room. She'll be fine. Like, he never even tried to talk to her.
I mean,
this is Tony way back, like where he even had problems with Peppers. Like, he had some growing to do.
Yeah, I mean, this is the same Tony Stark that made Ultron, so I mean, look, he's made some mistakes in the past.
But should we cancel him? I think not.
Yeah, exactly. We're not gonna cancel Tony Stark for being an alcoholic, womanizer, ill-conceived plan maker sometimes, but egotistical. I don't know. He's a great guy, but he's.
But he has to humble himself, and that's what I'm thinking. Like, so like Wanda like had got that good part with Vision and everything. I just find it funny with Agatha because Agatha was pretty much like when they introduced her and how she like was like was against Wanda. Was like, oh well, I'm going to take your power because you don't know how to use it because you're the chaos magic and all that other BS about it. And I'm just like, Agatha, you sucked all your coven, which are your sisters at this point, because that's how covens work. It's almost like a cult, but just women are involved.
It's a cult with women. That's all you need to know.
It's pretty much. But like, these are your sisters, and you killed your mother because you were just like, oh, well, they're going to try to kill me because of the dark arts I do? I'm going to suck them dry. But I'm still the good person in my story? I'm like, you shouldn't have chaos magic. I should. I'm like, you also probably shouldn't have chaos magic because all you do is suck people dry of magic. As a like, she just does that as a passive. Like, this is happening now. Like, what? It was just like a judging the kettle black there. I'm like, you're also bad? Like, at least Wanda has a reason because she lost everything. Like, this is a girl in grief, which kind of did a spell without realizing what she was doing. And then was like, I have to keep this spell going just to keep Vision alive. Crap. Like, and she technically didn't know how to take it off until she fought Agatha and kind of honed in her skills.
Yeah.
Because she was a talent. She was not skilled. She has talent. And I like that complex. Sorry.
Oh, no, which was, like, for me watching it, because I feel like I know enough about Marvel that I can, that I vaguely know things for certain things. But with Wanda, I didn't realize that she wasn't like 100% fully the Scarlet Witch. I thought, oh, she's Scarlet Witch, because I know that's who she is in the future. But this show kind of really put that home, where it's like, oh, no, you thought she was Scarlet Witch in Phase 3. No, she's Scarlet Witch now, and she can fuck some shit up.
Yep. Oh, and I know I said it in the last episode. Well, actually, no, I didn't say it. We talked about it before the show. So when in the finale where Scarlet Witch kind of just finagles her way to defeating Agatha, greatest shit I've ever seen. Like that because I was wondering why Agatha they put in this part where they're writing like, these are the runes and you can't do any magic in my room. Blah 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 blah.
Right.
Let's talk about runes. I'm just like, I guess this is going to be interesting later on, but okay. Like, why is she giving this lesson? And then like for that fall thing, like, oh, you forgot about the runes that makes the power not work in anywhere else. I'm like, oh, because it's her room, because it's her little hexagon thing. That's cool. Like, that's smart.
like I remember, because me and Lincoln were watching these episodes before every show, and when we were watching this, and that first rune appeared, Lincoln was like, oh shit. And I was like, it was perfect. It was the perfect moment, because it's like, it's coming back around. She learned.
Because I was like, oh damn, like I don't like, okay, because I know of course Scarlet Witch is gonna win, because why wouldn't she? But I'm like, how? Like, how are they gonna do this? Because Agatha is like her powers, but also can absorb energy. So I knew this was going to happen, where she was like, I'm gonna take all your magic away, and I'm like, oh no, Scarlet Witch might lose. And they're going to try to finagle some bullshit reason. But then when they, like, rune. Oh, it's not bullshit. It's good writing. It's good writing. Like, I'm just like, yes. It all comes together. Like, it was a crazy instance. Also, the fact, like, I do love how Vision ended his fight with the White Vision or whatever. Still weird that they went with that color scheme.
Yeah, it's like, should we cancel something else? Should we cancel White Vision?
Well,
because that's...
I found it funny because it kind of reminded me of like, and this is the old throwback, like the Centrodroids that are in Alien, and how like for some fuck reason the insides of a Centrodroid are just white fluid, which I thought was always a weird concept for anything to just like, I cut it open. This goes everywhere. It was weird. It was a weird gloopy thing of like, I don't know what this is supposed to reference, but I'm not going to look into it. But like the fact that Vision was that color, I was like, okay. But like, I love how Vision ends his fight with himself pretty much almost the same way he ended his fight with like Ultron, was like, oh, I'm going to put some lesson to you, and then I'm going to just beat the fuck out of you.
Yeah.
But in difference, Vision kind of just was like, oh, are you the boat, or are you this, or are you the same, or we both? And he just like reasoned his way out of a fight. I'm like,
Yeah, he
that's
gave
how
him
Vision would win against Vision.
he gave him a logical problem to solve in his own head, and he goes, "Yeah, yeah, no, we are both Vision." You know what I mean? Like because Vision,
They
he's
gave him a stupid
yeah,
because humans did the exact same thing humans always try to do when they make a fucking robot. It's like, we're gonna give you a simple command. Listen to the command. And the robot would be like, okay, my programming says this is a simple command, I'm gonna do it. And then somebody's like, hey, but are you going after Vision? Or are you technically going after yourself? Because technically, aren't you Vision? You have my matrix. And the thing's like, oh. And then it becomes a problem. I'm like, yeah, because simple fucking instructions are bad for a computer that can process things. Like, that's why making stupid shit like the AI is like, well, we told it couldn't kill humans. Then why is it killing humans now? Oh, because somehow it lodged the way out of it. It's like, well, technically I'm not killing humans. I'm just causing humans not to kill itself by killing humans. I'm actually saving you from yourselves.
and and just like a really nice subtle touch, the fact that they were in the library circling around when that happened, and I'm like from a thematic point of view, it's like, oh, that's perfect because Vision is, he's reasoning with them, so obviously you'd be in a hall of knowledge, but also it brings you back to that episode where he was meeting up with all those people in the library, and it was so weird. It was like I think that was the second episode, I believe, where he was like, hey guys, and oh, what's this secret club going on? It's like,
oh yeah, and there were the secret, not the, what was it, like public safety?
Yeah, it was
Neighborhood Watch.
Neighborhood Watch. There you go. Which that theme reoccurred because the Neighborhood Watch was doing the Halloween thing.
Yep.
Which I'll bring this up because Lincoln posted a video about weird pop culture references in the show. Like, because I'm sitting here thinking, oh man, I know all these sitcoms. I did not pick up on some of these. I did not know that the town in the Halloween episode was from Gilmore Girls.
I didn't know either. I was like, oh shit.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I think that's, I mean, not that I've seen like a ton of Gilmore Girls, but I'm like, oh, I could place that. That's like, but there was so many like, oh man, so many weird.
There was so many Easter eggs and stuff like that. Like, I knew when they were doing the whole like they did the Dick Van Dyke show and they showed it off with they did a Dick Van Dyke show and then like the choking part. I didn't know that was supposed to reference Twilight Zone.
I didn't know either.
I was like, oh, that's why it was like, because Twilight Zone had that fucking formulaic, especially back in the 50s thing, was like, this is what you think should happen. This is how reality is going on. But when you finally get what you think is supposed to happen, it's not what you want. Like, it was always a thing with, like, how they were like, we're going to lull you into this false sense of security and flip it on your head. So that was how that was always going with. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird how they did with Wanda. And again, these are also one of these episodes. Those are the first two fucking episodes. So I don't know how people thought, this is going to be boring forever. But I guess it was because they were expecting explosions in the first fucking episode. But like, I like how even like the last like 10 minutes where like Scarlet Witch is now like searching for the other people. I find it weird that she was like in some place, like it seemed like someplace in Norway. It almost seemed like she was in the house of where Thor was when he got fat. I was like, no, I don't think it's the same place. I didn't like think about it.
Yeah, no. But it was weird because it was like it was almost like she took her own version of like a Hulk retreat where she's like, I'm going to this house in the middle of nowhere and you're never gonna hear from me for now until I come up.
As she's trying to find her kids, which I like that technically because I'm like, okay, wait, I don't think Wiccan or Billy or and Speed, which is Timmy or
Tommy. Yeah.
Yes. So I don't think the kids are gone from existence yet because I think I think she plugged them into that reality from somewhere. Like it was like pick and choose or whatever, or making maybe even a digital or dimensional clone or some BS like that. So they're out there. The truth is out there. You have to find it, like kind of thing. Also, the fact that we talk about that like when we watch the show. Where the fuck? There's another Vision which I did not see explode or anything. That's just flying around.
Yeah, right.
So I'm just wondering, like, well, is she just trying to find her kids and then she'll look for that Vision, or is the movie that's supposed to come out for the Mirror of Madness, which Scarlet Witch is in, to my knowledge, still, because you know how they always try to fake us out with those Marvel movies. Like, you saw her in the fucking trailer, you saw her on the picture. She's not in the fucking movie. You know, like, but
she's in a post-credit scene.
Oh
like,
my god, wasn't I supposed to be in here? You were, and they just like. You're like, oh my fucking god. So for now, Scarlet Witch is supposed to be there. She's not going to play the villain part. I hope that's not what they're going to do, because that was another thing. A lot of people were like, oh well, she's going to be the villain, and I don't see Marvel putting, especially the record. I don't see Marvel putting out a like Wanda being the villain, because Wanda is too good of a tragic story. Because yes, we want to feel something for these villains. We don't want them to constantly be like, it's like Tony Stark. If Tony Stark became a corrupted bureaucrat, blah blah blah. Oh, it's like Ant-Man if he was rich instead of being poor. Like, we don't want like copy like this is the bad copy of it. But we also don't want like Wanda, where you're like, she's only doing this because she's grieving. Like, yeah, right. Like I don't want to beat a person down because they have depression. Like, like it's such. That's why I didn't like in Batman. Like, Mr. Freeze is prominently doing crimes to keep himself alive or to keep his wife alive. Like, to come back from there. I'm like, I always felt bad for him. And you're like, should Batman be beating him up? Like, he's a crying boy. Like, well, it was always a weird thing. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, like, I feel like the arc of how Wanda's portrayed almost kind of flows in the way the show is presented, where it's like, you think to yourself, you're like, oh wow, she must be kind of a villain because of what she's doing to these people in this town. And at first you think that she took his dead body, and because you're getting the perspective of Sword, you're getting the perspective of that guy, and you learn, just like the other, like the FBI guy and Kat Dennings' character, who I don't remember either of their names, you learn just like they do that he's full of shit.
Darcy.
Yeah, of course you remember. You're like, Darcy's my fave. I'm joking with you, but you, just as they do, you kind of learn that he's full of shit, and then the narrative kind of changes in the show and in the episodes, where you're like, oh, now we're learning about the real reason, and you're like,
oh yeah,
Wanda's not an enemy.
Going this way.
Yeah, Wanda's actually a sympathetic character, and this guy is a pile of shit. So, and it's, to me, it's perfect. It's good writing.
I knew about it like the day one they showed him. Like, I didn't say it because, again, Zach and I watched this together, and I don't want to spoil, even though I wouldn't have known. It would just been my impersonation. But I was just like, or interpretation. I was just like, huh, yeah, that's the villain. Because I'm like, it's not fucking Coulson, it's not Nick Fury, anyone taking over the mental of this. I'm too used to, it's all part of Hydra. So I like, after that whole like reveal, I suspect every single person that's not like these two people. So it was just like, oh yeah, I'm the Shield. We're not shielding, we're Sword. And I'm like, okay. Well, things happen, and we made weapons now. Cool. You're the villain, aren't you? So when they revealed it, I was like, yeah, I expected it.
And I think
he was just a dick. He just came off with that bravado, like, man, look at my balls. Like, that's what he was. Like, that's like.
And I think it also kind of goes to show. I mean, maybe. I mean, I do not know this for sure, but this could be the way that the organization of Sword is portrayed going forward, where maybe they're not doing this for the best intentions. Maybe they're doing this selfishly. Maybe they're trying to learn from their mistakes, because S.H.I.E.L.D. had a class a classiness to them, an honor to them. Like Nick Fury wouldn't do this. He wouldn't. He would find a way to get through to Wanda without trying to like kill her. You know, like treating her like she's Godzilla.
I think past Nick Fury
or
would probably
King Kong. Maybe not, but I think he's learned a lot.
He would have never done as bad as the guy.
Yes, and Coulson would definitely not, because he's just not. That's just not
Coulson
how he
would
approaches
have
things.
Died, be like, Wanda, come on, like, I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Tahiti. So I feel like, going forward, our interactions with Sword in Phase 4 are going to be like, maybe these people in power who are jaded or not jaded or whatever, which either or.
Well, yeah, and I like that they could be like an evil system, because, to be honest, like, Marvel has done that. Like, S.H.I.E.L.D. might have been the only kind of neutral party that's ever existed, ever. Because, okay, Avengers was never a bad team, but Illuminati did some shady shit. They did some shady ass shit throughout the comics, to the point where they had to split up. Fucking, oh shit, if I can remember. The team, the Dark Avengers, or whatever the team was before they became the Dark Avengers, they did some shady shit. Which, of course, why the fuck do you think that the guy who was Norman Osborn would be on the up and up? Like, girl, but he wore a suit that was patriotic. I'm like, where the fuck did he get the suit from? Like, why do you think that was weird? Like, goddamn. But, like, a lot of, like, organizations and stuff, like, aside from S.H.I.E.L.D., always kind of corrupt. Like, they're just, shit goes wrong because corporate greed comes into play, or just, like, even, like the military, or technically not even the military itself or the army, it's Ross. Let's just be honest with ourselves. How he was just so gung-ho, it's like, fucking hate Bruce Banner, fucking hate the Hulk, I will use all exposition, we will throw nukes at this motherfucker, don't care. I'm like, why do you think a nuke would work? Well, it makes a big explosion. He is a nuclear bomb walking! Like it's not doing shit!
and also, the emergence of Sword now, it just always makes me think back to S.H.I.E.L.D. and that S.H.I.E.L.D. is over, and that they existed in this timeline to a certain point, and nobody will ever know that they existed to a certain point. And that
we talked about this. We're like, is anyone ever going to tell Avengers that Coulson did come back and they kind of died? And it's never going to come back in context. Who's going to tell them? Why would they ever say that? Like, oh yeah, by the way, your vendetta was, or your we're going to avenge them shit was based off the fact that I killed off a character and brought him back.
But even like the fact that there's other characters tied to that show that are still kind of floating around in this collective universe, like Ghost Rider, he's out there. Not that I think maybe you could just plug him into the MCU, but like, he's there. You could use him if you wanted to. I don't think he plays into any of these stories, but he's there. Some other people too, like
hell, what technically happens with oh shit, I didn't even think about this before. What happens to Peggy's granddaughter? The one with the blonde hair. Was it the granddaughter or just daughter? I mean okay, you remember this is Civil War time, I think, where we were like, oh, that's kind of weird that Steve Rogers just hooks up with a girl who was the blonde girl who was like Peggy's daughter, I think. And now, didn't Steve Rogers trying to go back in time now?
Oh. Maybe oh God, we have like a Back to the Future moment. Did he bang his own daughter?
Oh.
Cancel that. Know. Cancel that.
I just thought about that. I'm like, wait. So he went back in time, had the dance with Peggy. So he had to have a kid, which explains the blonde hair. Or he now's with Peggy, so is the girl just wiped out of existence? Because it's not like Peggy got married with somebody else, just like, you have to have this kid. And then we can be back together. Like that. Oh, that was a plot hole. Like,
let's just put
like, I'm dying on this.
Let's just put it this way. That would be a crazy ending to How I Met Your Mother if it's Steve Rogers talking to his kid.
No. I really hope people watch this and just realize the fucking landmine that I just fucking thought through. Just like, oh, like I was like, think about it. I'm trying to die. But anyway, final thoughts. How do you think of WandaVision as a whole? What did you like about it? What did you dislike? Your rating.
I liked pretty much everything about it because number one, it was a 9-episode series, so it's not like they did a lot in a very short amount of time. Yep. Yeah, short and sweet. Not a lot of things I was like, oh, that sucks or that was bad. I really enjoyed the sitcom stuff because growing up as a kid in the 90s who watched a lot of TV, yeah, both of us, we know these sitcoms. Like, it's weird that I can pick out the living room from Bewitched, but I can. There's kids in this generation who don't know what the hell Bewitched is, so good luck with their lives.
Especially that Dick Van Dyke. I forgot about it. His name was literally Dick and Dyke.
Yeah, right? Cancel Dick Van Dyke, and his name is so offensive. We can't have that now.
Both genitalias. It's literally both of them.
but yeah, so I really enjoyed that out. Like, that was part of my interest in watching the next episode because I'm like, I really want to see what they're gonna parody next. And not only did they like go back and get the actual sets and like make it look as much as they could, but they used it within the plot to make sense of, you know, certain things that were happening, certain things that were going on. Like, you know, it wasn't just there on the surface. It played into everything. Even like the video that I mentioned before that Lincoln sent me, mentioned the Modern Family episode, and that style of show, you know, the Office and, you know, shows that are the fake documentaries, it represented how Wanda was kind of dealing at the time, where even she's not aware of like what's happening, like why everything's falling apart, and she's being interviewed, and the guy off camera goes, "Don't you think you deserved it?" And then she's like,
which was Agatha all along.
Yeah.
Which the monster thing.
Yeah, which was another thing that was perfect, where it's just like, it was Agatha, which was the Munsters. I was like, this is great. But yeah, so I enjoyed the sitcom stuff probably the most out of everything. And rating wise, I'd give it like a 9 to a 9.5. This was a very good Marvel series. Not just because it was short and sweet, but just because everything was solid, nothing dragged. You have new characters coming out of it, like Photon or Proton, whatever her name is. It referenced so many things, like left and right, like every Marvel thing, but it did so much to start this phase. If this is the start, it's going to be good. So what about you? What did you like about it the most? Rating, everything.
Rating,
dislike.
So what I like, it actually is a weird thing. Like, yes, of course, the action, the drama, like the mystery of it all, and trying to solve these things. And even if, like, as it ended, there's still so mystery. So I'm like, okay, what's going to happen? Like, I want to extrapolate all of this shit in there, have a fucking board with red tape. Like, but what I really like about it was I do like the references, and I do love the fact that it wasn't just thrown in your face. Like, we have a Marvel series, blah, 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 these things are coming in, blah, 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 like, all these, like, I like that it was, like, very subtle and very important. All the references they were doing. They brought the dark hole back. Like, I was like, bro, this is from season, like, 4 of
Shield.
Like, Shield.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. I think this was after Adam, like, his name's up. After Hall died. Like, this was way back in that time. So, like, all those references, the fact that, like, they really brought in the Scarlet Witch into her own, which I thought, like, I was like you, Zach. I literally was like, oh, yeah, Scarlet Witch was always a thing. Like, but then when they were like, you are the Scarlet Witch, and then when Agatha said it, I was like, they have never called her the Scarlet Witch the whole fucking time. They just called her Wanda. Like, I was like, oh, shit, she never had a name. Like, it was somehow dawned on me in that moment. I was like, oh, she never did wear the suit. She just wore red all the time. They never said her name as Scarlet Witch. It was just a thing.
Yeah.
So I do love I love the references. I love like the throwbacks and people coming into the thing. Of course, I love seeing my girl Darcy. Hey, I will put it out there. I think she's married, so I'm never gonna say like, oh yeah, we'd hook up, but like, hands down, fucking love that. I fucking love her. First crush, like maybe celebrity crush I had since like Mariah Carey, which I was way too fucking young and realized no, she was my
Hey,
artist,
I mean, hey,
I
she's.
fucking loved Mariah Carey back in the day.
Hey, I'm good with Mariah Carey. So
It was like Mariah Carey to Pango from Boys Meet World, which was everybody. It's like, oh yeah, she does things. But yeah, like a lot of those references and having Donnie Chen, God, that guy's a good actor. He was in Young Rock. We didn't get to talk about it.
yeah, right.
But,
Which weird timing, by the way. That show premieres in the middle of WandaVision, and I'm watching both, and I'm like, yo, this dude's the cop in the show.
but to be honest, like, okay, I'm not saying he's not a good actor, but he's just himself in every fucking.
Exactly. He's
literally just himself.
you know what you're getting when you cast him. Like that's just his personality.
But yeah, like, so it's good. Also, the fact that his character was like, this is the not being racist, but this is the Asian version of Coulson. Like, this was like, I like that. I like seeing that like spark of joy and back into a show. Like, I fucking
The honor he has
compared to fucking Sword. So I just love all the references and just keeping me in home. Like, hey, you've been watching our movies. We celebrate you as a fan. We know who you are. And the fact that made me research, like, I didn't fucking know about Young Avengers at all. I'd be like, oh, Wiccan's a person. Oh, this is a thing. Oh, this is a whole other fucking. I just like the reasoning to dive in more. So that was my greatest. I don't think I had anything I did not like about it. The pacing was amazing. Fucking action was good when it was needed. The mystery along. So I don't think there's anything I hated. I would watch it all over again. I just know it would just be too hypey watching it again. My score, same kind of like I was gonna say 9, but like as we were talking about, like 9.5,
yes,
almost 10. Like
almost
this is
perfect.
A masterpiece of a fucking series, especially short series. I'm not saying I did not expect it to be good, but I did not expect it to be as good as it was. Like I was like, they have a lot to like hype into. This is a whole nother phase, and it's going by TVs. They need a reason. They need to be literally like, oh, this is the reason why you keep Disney Plus. Especially because after Mandalorian, like that ended a week or two before WandaVision came out, so people were still like,
And I think the concept and the fact that it's Scarlet Witch, I feel like it almost set the bar a little bit lower, right? Because you're looking at the lineup of shows, and you're like. Yeah. You have Loki, you have Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you have all the other stuff, and you're thinking, okay, this is going to be the first one. It's probably not going to be as important and crazy as those ones. It's
going to set the stage.
Yeah. Like when the trailer came out, people were telling me like, well, it looks kind of weird, and like, you know, like Vision's cool, but like, you know, when you're thinking of Avengers,
we want to watch a show because this is back when Vision was all stoic and shit. So we were like, do I want to watch? Fucking another one of Caesar version of fucking Thor, because that's how it was. Like people were just like, I don't want to see this. Like I don't want to see like, oh, Vision, the best boyfriend. Like it was like come on. But then when you're like, he's goofy, he can put his chops in there, and they have some fun with everything and some terror into it. Like that's what happened, and which is weird because now like I know Winter Soldier is supposed to come out in the 19th. I'm not advertised by this. I just have Disney Plus, so take it as you are. That's also one of those. I'm not like that is a lower expectations. Like I'm like, I don't care. Like I like Falcon. I do like him, and I like the Winter Soldier. But do I think they could run a show by themselves and just have Baron Zemo as a fucking villain? No, I don't really expect a lot from this. But at the same time, because of what Scarlet Witch did. With such a, I'm going to say niche character, because like, even people who know about X-Men, I don't know a lot of them that know like about Scarlet Witch as much as like you had to learn about this character in such a short amount of time. Like, out of the X-Men roster, she's not like, it's like, Wolverine, you got your Storm, you got your fucking Magneto, you got Xavier, Cyclops, and Jean Grey. Cool. And Scarlet Witch is somewhere there.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think if the purpose of the show was to put a spotlight on a character that's not one of the big characters, it did its job. Like it gave you something to relate to her, and now that she's fully formed, so to speak,
give you a good reason why she's the most powerful fucking Avenger.
Yeah.
Even though the fight will keep going on, like, oh, we have to put that in there. Is Hulk or Thor the most powerful Avenger?
Coming soon. Pick a side.
But yeah, like, because it gives reason why, like, yeah, we need to know about the story. Also, let's never forget that they go back to their past, because them talking about whatever place that's pretty much Soviet Russia. Let's be honest with ourselves. That's what they're making fun of. But like, going back to that and like hearing about the stories or whatever, and like, okay, that's cool. But then seeing it in WandaVision, and then seeing the tragic shit that was like why she's so into sitcoms. I was like,
yeah, right.
they just put the little pesto on the spaghetti that made it amazing. Like, it was just like, oh yes, I like this layering of character development. Here's another character. Side of drama with little winks of like joy in there. It was amazing. So yeah, 9.5 out of 10. I want to see Winter Soldier, and like, I hope they can keep that train going, especially because Loki is like on that. I know everyone's waiting to see Loki. Like, everybody's like, it's time. And I'm surprised Winter Soldier got pushed in. I thought it was going to be Loki next. I'm so surprised Winter Soldier is coming in there. So I can't, like, you better keep that train going. You better keep it going.
I'm gonna laugh if WandaVision is the best of all these shows. Like, because everybody's expectations are, for Loki and for Winter Soldier and Falcon. But it's like, hey, you don't sleep on it.
We forgot the other one that's supposed to come out is
the fourth one. I can't remember.
Arrow guy. What's his name?
Oh, Hawkeye. But I thought that was
Hawkeye.
I thought that was going to be a movie.
It's a TV show. It's supposed to be for the girl because he's training her to become the new Hawkeye.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's good. That's good.
But yeah, so Zach, tell them where they can find you.
W. Von Lewis, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, Moshi Moshi Pod, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr. We have a YouTube as well. As I stated on a previous episode, I do not know what the / what the actual channel name is, because I tried Moshi Moshi Podcast test. It doesn't go nowhere. Lincoln tried it. It didn't go nowhere. So just search for us on YouTube. Just type us in. You'll find us, because come on. Come on. We also have a Twitch, which if you're watching this live, you're on Twitch. Good job for you. You can also watch the replay, or you can watch it on YouTube because it'll be up there. So either or. T-shirts, astralisdasrelis.com, and the podcast is everywhere.
Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Podcore, and Audible. But you can find me at my Twitter at CheatUpDoor. And I do also have a Facebook, Lincoln Washington Edwards, which of course you can hit me up there, whole name. But with that and everything else, cancel culture, and leave my peppy lippy. Also, the funny part was that they were saying, oh yeah, they're going to go on Johnny Bravo. I'm like, if they dare touch Johnny Bravo's the best shit. Like, it was just like, this is how you're not supposed to be, because women can kick your fucking ass. It sparked the tomboy thing for me. I fucking love women who can defend themselves. I just do. Anyway, with everything else, BFN. Bye for now.
And pork chop. Whoa, mama. No.
Whoa. Do the monkey with me. Hey. Bye.
And for the people still watching on YouTube and Twitch, here's an awkward minute or two of us before we say goodbye, because I don't.
love.
Yeah.
Wait till I get my money. I can't keep singing. I think it's like 7 seconds. Like copyrighted. Like I don't sound like them.
Man, if all our advertising revenue goes to Kanye West of all people.